Tips from Trestle is brought to you by the Belter Companies, Navigator Group Purchasing, and eMenu Choice Point of Sale. Welcome to Tips from Trestle, the Senior Living Food and Hospitality Podcast. This podcast explores the senior living industry with a unique focus on food, hospitality, and the community experience. I'm your host, Aaron Fish. During 3 decades in the hospitality industry, I focused my work on creating exceptional experiences for the customers we serve. My goal for this podcast? Educate, inform, and inspire leaders in senior living. How? By creating hospitality with a purpose, by bringing the customer experience to the front of mind in our industry. We should bring the passionate spirit of food and hospitality to everything that we do and everyone we serve each and every day. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to it. Joining me for the first half of today's podcast is Catie Ramp. Catie is the president and CEO of the Georgia Senior Living Association and has 21 years of experience in the nonprofit and association world, focusing on leadership development. She is also a board member for Age Tech Atlanta and is a member of the Argentum State Executive Board. Catie, thanks for joining me today on Tips from Trestle.
I'm so excited to be here with you today, Aaron.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Almost kind of a little bit of a recap, I guess, of your culinary competition at your recent conference. And so I want to dive in a little bit. First of all, thank you for allowing me to be part of the moderator team for that. It was a ton of fun. What inspired you to have Georgia Senior Living put together a culinary competition for your members?
Sure. This was a conversation we've been having for a few years. We as an association tried to provide education and partnership opportunities for every area inside of a community that you'll find. And one of the areas that I think associations in general kind of have a miss on is our culinary component, the dining experience inside of communities. I attended another state conference and saw it done very well and loved it. And that was a few years ago, and thought this is an excellent way to engage our really great and talented culinary departments in our communities in a different way than a classroom setting. And so that's where the idea developed from. It grew as we brought it to the staff and invited you and other partners into this conversation to help it grow, to engage a new voice and new talents inside of what we're offering our members.
Yeah, I think you make a great point that every time I reach out or I talk with different state associations or I go and speak at the conferences, one of the things I find is I'm usually one of two or one that's there speaking about anything related to food or food service or even hospitality. And so kind of taking that extra step and saying, not just that it's important, but that we are going to put on a show around it, I think is such a great thing. And one of the things that you guys did that I thought was very interesting and I think kind of added to the event was you made it important that there was some educational aspects to it, not just from a culinary, like here's the cooking techniques and ingredients, but we put together kind of a list of topics and things to talk about to kind of help fill in during some of the competition. And so why was that important for you guys to do when you've seen maybe other competitions not include that?
Sure. We have all watched the food challenges on the shows. My daughter's favorite show is the one that happens in the UK, and we watch it every Friday night. And so we've all seen that. We all know what that is, and that's a fun experience. So we knew that part was going to land well. The
Mm.
educational component was very important to us because anything we do as an association needs to better the people in the room. We don't want you to just come and experience something. We want you to come, experience something, and leave being able to implement or think differently. So our hope with the education that was happening in there was that the room filled with administrators and business office managers and sales and marketing folks and activities folks will understand the thought process that goes into our culinary component of what's happening inside of communities and to realize that it's a value add to everything we do. We talk about that. Sure, it's listed on a brochure somewhere, but when it becomes real, it's not just, hey, it's the guy that cooks in the back. It's not. It is someone who is trained to make sure that we're hitting every dietary aspect of what we're doing, but we're also making it a really great experience. There's nothing better than saying, hey, come, you need to come visit my community because we are excellent at. And sometimes that's activities, and sometimes that is the socialization aspect, and that's
Right.
great. But man, when someone says, "Come to my community, come on Wednesday, we have the best fried chicken in town," you know what I'm gonna do? I'm showing up on Wednesday.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, food is so important to the not just the community experience for residents, but to the marketing of a community. It's something that every prospect asks about. The family's curious about it, so they want to know. And so I think it's important that we know and understand what dining means to a community at large. And looking at the way you put the competition together, how does that showcase what your members are doing and are capable of doing when it comes about engaging residents with food and the culinary experience?
Think what was really fun was identifying which chefs were going to cook with us and be part of that competition, letting them know what the dish was going to be, and then watching them put their fingerprints on it. And I literally, I mean, fingerprints, they're chefs, that's what they do. But this different seasons or different takes on the same dish, the way that they personalized it to what they were excellent at or what they know would feed their community well. That's one of the cool things about dining is you can make it a really individual experience. You can incorporate culture into the dining experience that you're offering. You can incorporate the holiday and the season, but you can also incorporate the personal preference. And when you have chefs that are they're trained, many classically trained to come into this space, they're not just providing smothered chicken. They're
Right.
providing smothered chicken with this flair or this spice that makes it different and original and engaging and inviting. So you feel like you're walking into a restaurant experience and not just, the college dorm that I would walk through and get from the cafeteria.
Yeah, and you're so right, and I'm over here to, like, preach it from the mountaintops, Katie, right? Because I everything you said is exactly how I feel about it, and I you use the word restaurant experience, and I think that's so important because there's so many operators out there that are doing they say restaurant style, right? And I just cringe when I hear that because I know that just means you're putting kind of window dressing on institutional food. But doing a culinary competition and finding chefs like you did that they create food, right? They create experience around food is really so important. And one of the things you hit on there that I think kind of ties into why this is so important right now is we're years away from the COVID, but what that did was that showed us that we've got staffing and workforce challenges that we've got to figure out how to address. And one of the things and why I wanted to be a part of it was because we're we're showcasing not just communities, but we're showcasing why someone who has a background as a chef with tons of culinary experience would want to come and work in senior living. It's not just that old image of opening a can of tomato sauce and put it on top of some spaghetti. It's definitely more than that. And so, how do you feel, especially in kind of in Georgia, something like this can address or help you, talk more about the staffing and workforce challenges in the state and with your membership? Today, I want to tell you about one of Tressel's senior living partners, Belter. Belter is a food service design, equipment, and supply company that has been providing expert guidance to the food and beverage industry for nearly a century. A strategic partner to the most successful food service operations in the country, Belter provides support in kitchen and bar design, equipment procurement and install, and supplies. Their team of senior living food service experts have experience across the continuum of care. From independent living to skilled nursing and CCRCs, Belter specializes in right sizing new facilities, modernizing remodels, and providing the right food service equipment and supplies. At Belter, they are committed to creating memorable experiences for their customers and their guests. With their top notch team and a global network of quality supplier partners, their customer focused approach is built on a foundation of collaboration and decades of industry experience. So, thank you for considering Belter for all of your food service needs.
Absolutely. So right now, everywhere, not just Georgia, is facing workforce shortages and challenges.
Yeah.
This was not new and brought on by COVID. This existed before COVID. It just was exacerbated by the 3.5 years that we've experienced COVID. So I think being able to highlight this skill set is extremely valuable as we're going into specific school situations, whether that's a tech school or a culinary program, to say this is an option. We have so many places, specifically in Georgia, that
Mhm.
feel like rural communities, but we have artists that know how to not just cook, but to create something special. And often, just like the medical field, you think, well, if I want to be in medicine, I need to be a doctor or a nurse. Well, no, that you could be someone that is a direct care worker. You can work into a CNA program and work up into something if the opportunity to go to med school is not at your front door. In the same way, I think the culinary aspect is very, very similar. You have someone that is creative in the way and scientific in the way that they cook, in the way that they look at that experience. They're looking at maybe a trade school because they can't afford the next level of learning. But this is a really great next step that could help promote you into the ability to go further within that career. So maybe you start off as a server. I mean, that's my favorite story. My favorite story is when we're sitting in an administrator course and someone
Mhm.
says, well, I came in high school and I was a server. And they talk through working through the kitchen experience before they worked into direct care and now want to be in management. I mean, that's the success story, right? I think the
Yeah.
same success story is I started in dining and now I am the executive chef. Or now I plan food for our entire region. Or I look at our purchasing options for our company. That's the success story. And in Georgia, we have so many rural areas. I mean, as most states do, to be really honest, but we have more rural areas than we have big metropoli. And
Yeah.
I think that we've got so much talent inside of those spaces. This is a new way for us to offer and usher someone into an environment that they didn't even know existed. People will drive down the street. We have an area here that in the 10-mile radius, there are 52 senior living communities. And you just see them and you're like, oh, that's a nice building. I don't know what that is. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, you know about senior living communities and you now have 52 places to send your resume. That's ridiculous and amazing.
Yeah.
So I
It is
think that
awesome.
we can showcase what we get to do inside of our communities to the rising workforce and even the existing workforce. We could find deeper pockets. We can find a deeper well of people that could help elevate us to a new environment and new experiences.
Yeah, and you made a point in there that I think is important. We hear everybody talking about the student loan issue, right? And how expensive it is to go to college and get that 4-year degree. Well, I've always thought that working your way through hospitality and up into management and understanding all of that processes is just as good, if not better, than getting a 4-year degree and understanding how to lead people and manage a big complex operation. And so I think starting in food service set any leader up in any department for long-term success. So, as I wrap up with you here, I think I would be remiss if I didn't ask you what was probably your one biggest like highlight or takeaway from the actual competition itself? What was the thing that kind of inspired you or impressed you the most?
I feel like I have 7 answers for this, Aaron. So I'm going to try to not have 7 answers. I think that one of my favorite experiences was seeing Chef Manny win because his boss, who's from the corporate level, was so excited. It was almost like when you're at a wedding and you watch the groom's face instead of the bride walking down. I turned and watched Alan, Chef Alan, who I think you're going to get to talk to, and
Yeah,
he celebrated just as much. And that there was such a fulfillment in watching that happen because as a leader, and most of your listeners are leaders, as a leader, there is nothing better in life than watching the people you lead succeed. There's joy inside of that. So I think that was a super big highlight. Talking to the judges afterwards and how good each dish was, very cool. Also, there were two people in the audience that said, I want to be a competitor next year. How do I be? They were so thrilled with what was
yeah.
happening. But watching Chef Alan watch Manny win, nothing better.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, I just the whole experience for me was great, and I've done a few of these before, but the way that we put this together and the way it came together was just amazing. So, like you said, Katie, we're going to talk with Chef Manny and Chef Alan here in the next part of the podcast. But thank you for joining me and kind of laying the groundwork for why this culinary competition was designed and how you put it together. And looking forward to next year and many more of these. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron.
Joining me for the second half of today's Tips from Trestle podcast is Georgia Senior Living Association culinary competition winner, Chef Juan Lasperia and Chef Alan Vasquez. Chef Juan, better known as Chef Manny, is the food service director with Oaks at Gracemont. He has been working in the senior living industry for 12 years and is motivated by continuing to learn and adding experience to his career. Chef Allen is the director of dining services with Oak Senior Living. He has been with Oak Senior Living for 6 years, but has over 20 years of experience in the food and hospitality industry. He retired from the Army in 2012 and is a Johnson and Wales NMI University graduate. Chefs, thanks for joining me today on this part of the Tips from Trestle podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you for
so
having me. It's an honor.
absolutely. I'm really excited. Being able to moderate and be a part of the culinary competition at the conference this year was really exciting. I knew we would see a lot of great stuff, but there was some pretty impressive chefs on stage with you, Chef Juan. And so, first, congratulations again on winning against that stiff competition. But I want to know a little bit more about what made you want to participate in the competition. What was so important about that for you?
Well, I think it was a really, really nice opportunity, to showcase what has been learning on the, culinary industry, especially on the senior living. So I think that was a nice opportunity. And also, was like a kind of challenge to myself to, be on the competitive platform. But, and then was really, really, really fun. Was a really nice experience. I never could be sure in front of like two, three, or 400 people. I don't even know how many people were there, but
Yeah.
was an incredible experience. I feel the support from all the people who were there. That was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big room full of a lot of people, and so, when you think about leading up to the competition, Juan, what kind of preparation did you need to do? What did you do to kind of feel like you set yourself up for the success you had to be able to win the competition?
Well, I was more focusing, trying to refine my dishes, but also trying to learn or experiment with the new techniques, like plate presentations and garnishing and something different just to try to bring it to a different level and then, transfer all that to the residents when I come back to our community or for the building.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of opportunity to really showcase a bunch of different things, and I think you did some really amazing things. And so,
Thank you.
Chef Allen, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about a little of the bigger picture, if you will. When you think about your culinary program at Oak Senior Living, how does something like this reflect what you're building kind of daily, how you guys approach the operation, and why something like this is important to you as an organization?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on here. I think just the sheer opportunity of us being represented through Chef Manny and sous chef Brandon on the GSLA stage is absolutely phenomenal. When you speak about preparation, when you talk about things such as garnishing, plate presentation, that's just something that we as an organization pride ourselves in each and every single day. I know Chef Manny and Chef Brandon kind of just went head to head in Cooler's kitchen, just preparing and just trying out a few certain things. Well, that's just something we do in our communities each and every day, not trying to win a competition, but trying to win over our residents, which let me tell you, it's a lot harder than any competition out
Okay.
there.
Oh,
Well, how
yes,
does
for
that
sure. It definitely is. No,
So,
I have lived it and breathed it, so I know
yeah,
how it can be. Being in the trenches and doing those things is hard work. And so,
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
so when you think about all of those things, Chef Allen, how do you continue to support the success of Chef One, obviously, but all of your communities with a culinary competition, but what do you take away from that and what you're trying to promote with your program?
Culture. Culture is the key word that I use time and time again. This particular, competition, featured, a great chef, Chef Manny, and it also featured Chef Brandon. But internally, we do these things all the time. Internally, we have what we call the Cultured Excellence Award, is an award that we promote and we give away each and every single quarter to a specific community who has done, what Manny has done on the GSLA stage. So we promote the culture, we promote greatness, and we try to make sure that everyone in the portfolio understands how important it is for us to continue and carry out our dining culture, not only to our residents, but our staff, our community partners, and their on. So it's just something we do quarter over quarter, week over week, day after day.
Yeah, no, building culture is so important, and I love that you guys focus on that. And so, Chef Juan, when you think about, the culture that you and Chef Allen and all of your, other community partners across the company are trying to do, what does that mean when you think about dining to the community? What kind of impact does that have around how you engage your residents with your dining program?
Well, I think that is a really, really important subject, on the right, because, a lot of the residents, they come, like a brand new or different new environment. They haven't been there or they are not allowed to cook anymore because for some reasons. And then, we trying to make them feel at home. So that change or transition is not too hard on them. So, we talk to the residents and, try to see what they like, what they dislike, and trying to get some feedback from them. And, our residents just, they wait breakfast and then they wait for lunch and then they wait for dinner. But that is the main thing they waiting day by day. So I think it's very important because, we trying to make them feel like at least,
Yeah, and I think one of the things that when I think about what you did at the culinary competition and what you kind of showed is that you've got to be able to continually reinvent dishes and be creative because of what we find in senior living with the kind of the static audience, if you will, the customer base, quote unquote, is the same residents day in and day out. And so you've got to continue to be creative and use those culinary skills that you've developed. And I think being a part of a culinary competition like that can really showcase, hey, yeah, it's smothered chicken is the dish, but there were 3 very different plates that were served. And I think it just goes to show how when you pull that kind of culinary culture, like Chef Allen was talking about, and you put it in place day to day, it can really have an impact on residents and their satisfaction. And so when you think, Chef Allen, about leading a larger dining team, right? How important is having talent like Chef Juan on your team to be able to create and develop better choices for your residents as you think about the larger organization?
Extremely important. And the crazy thing is, to Manny's point, that the dish itself, the food itself on the plate is just one thing. When we have our residents come down or come up to our dining rooms, when you have someone like Chef Manny, someone like Chef Brandon, someone like Chef Mo, I mean, I can keep naming our chefs. They're all so great. I can only imagine, who I am as a person and what I can give our residents. Yeah, the plate is great, but it starts with everything from the dining room, again, the culture, the service, the cleanliness, and everything else. And we have someone of the talent and the caliber that Chef Manny is. All of those pieces come together to an experience, a dining experience, which is what we're ultimately trying to give to all of our residents and their family members. So, you go to a restaurant, and you have a great steak, but the service is in there or your booth is dirty, then the steak is not so great anymore, right? Well, when we have someone like Chef Manny or any of our other great chefs that actually work every single day, walk their kitchens, walk their dining rooms, and bring all of those different variables to one.
Navigator is the largest full-service GPO that exclusively focuses on the senior living community. And what that means is we provide products and services that help our members provide a great environment for their residents, such as like MRO, hospitality equipment, food, business products, as well as technology solutions. We actually surround our members with a level of support unmatched in the industry.
And make an actual experience out of each and every meal that our residents look forward to. That's what we strive to do every single day.
Yeah, and I know, having been in your shoes before, Chef Alan, that's so difficult without the right talent. Having someone like Chef Manny and his team and being able to develop that is so critical for that. And so, Chef Manny, I wanted to ask you, what was probably the one thing that would be like the highlight, if you will, that you took away from the competition? You were up there for an hour, kind of you and your sous chef Brandon, kind of working through all of that. What's the one highlight of the event that you would share with the listeners?
Well, I think the support I get from, the company, like we usually get it every single day. I feel the same that day over there. Every single day we get the support from my ED, from Alan. Alan is a person like anytime you try to reach him for anything, no matter it's a holiday, weekend, he always go back to you and tell you, you know, I answer the questions you ask. So it's not only the talent we have a great leadership, and Oaks, the Graceman, and Oaks, senior living basically, but the support I feel that day, it was incredible.
Yeah. And Chef Allen, as we kind of wrap things up here, what does having someone like Chef Manny who's on your team winning a competition like this isn't something that's like there's a lot of those like local competitions where like a chili cook-off or something where hey the senior living chef was the best guy in the neighborhood, right? This is, I mean, Chef Manny is the best chef in the state as of right now. So how important is something like this for your organization when you think about how do I go and find the best talent? How do I kind of challenge those out there? Hey, come to senior living, come work at Oaks because we do things differently than what you think senior living does.
That is such a great question. And the crazy thing is that there's two answers to the question. One, it's a little bit longer, and I know we don't have time for that, which is Manny's story. His story is amazing, his background, where he came from, and what he has achieved ultimately up to his point in his life. I mean, when I read and understood his story, it touched, so that's one answer. We can go into detail at a later podcast. But the thing is that just being a part of this competition was already winning for us. You know what I mean? It was the first one ever, so it's, but, so many chefs across the state, so many chefs across the state that couldn't even make the competition, then let alone we win, that was just the cherry on top, so as a chef, and you can understand this, there's a slight bit of arrogance and cockiness in there as always, right?
Always, yes.
So I'm trying to be very humble on this podcast, and I'm not trying to bring that out, as you can understand. Just letting ourselves know, we are this good. Chef Manny is as good. Oakside Graceman is as good, and I hate to say this, but now everybody knows Oak Senior Living is here to stay.
Yeah, no. No, absolutely. That is the answer I was kind of expecting to get, right? Like this is what we do, this is how we do it, and this is why Chef Manny's the chef hoisting the trophy at the end of the day. So, well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on and kind of sharing the experience. I was honored to be a part of it and kind of help, keep things on track a little bit. Chef Manny, congratulations again on winning the first ever competition, and look forward to seeing you guys next year at the competition to
Yes.
defend the crown, if you will.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Thank you for having us.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining me today on Tips from Trestle.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
So there you have it, another one in the books. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. Please follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us on Twitter at Tips from Trestle. You can also learn more about the work I do by following me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. And be sure to check out Trestle Hospitality Concepts at www.trestlehospitalityconcepts.com. I'm your host, Aaron Fish, and this has been another episode of Tips from Trestle.